Hello everybody and welcome back. It's a bit of a rainy day today and it sounds like someone's jackhammering across the road, so sorry about the sound quality. I'm doing a little bit of work in the loft before I go to work. I've started putting up the wire mesh on the door panels, and if I get a chance I would also like to put the wooden walls in these sections, and then I'll move on to doing the internal lining here so we can get the perches up and have this loft ready for some pigeons. You guys did leave a lot of comments and questions on the last video about this loft, so I thought it would be nice to answer those, but let's go and have a look at the pigeons first. I thought it would be nice to give you guys a closer look at this guy. Like I said in the previous video, he is my favourite pigeon. And again, sorry about the jackhammering noise in the background. This guy is a very old pigeon. Just as a little bit of an indication, I'm 32 years old and I bred this guy when I was in high school. That was in 2007, so he's a 14-year-old racing pigeon now. And he was quite a good racing pigeon. He only had a short career. He flew 5 races, and in the first 2 races he was actually the last pigeon to return to the loft. He had a very bad go of his first 2 races. He didn't have a very good time of his first 2 races as a young bird, but in his 3rd race in the young bird season, he was our 2nd bird home to the loft. And here in Australia it's a little bit different to the rest of the world. Only the first bird to the loft gets the position in the race, so your 2nd bird all the way down to your last bird, they don't count in the same way that it does in other parts of the world. But if he was our first bird, he would have actually got a pretty good position in that race. And then that was the last race he flew as a young bird. And then he came back and he flew 2 more races as an old bird. And he was our first bird home on both of those races. And I'm just going off memory now, I'll have to look up the final results. But I'm pretty sure he was 2nd and 5th in the Federation in those 2 races. And there was only seconds in it. He was about 30 seconds from one and about 45 seconds from winning the other one. And ever since then, this guy really has just been one of my favourite pigeons. Unfortunately, he hasn't really produced any more winners. He is really more of a pet than anything now because he hasn't really proved himself as a stock pigeon. I am using him as the basis of my yellow project. That's more sentimental than anything. I just would like to carry on his bloodline because he is one of my favourite pigeons. He is a very tame and gentle pigeon though, and he's always a pleasure to have in the loft. He'll eat out of your hands. He never really causes any fights. And he really is just a lovely pigeon to have. You can really see his age having a look at his face here. His wattle or his cere has gotten quite large. But he still breeds quite successfully, and he does produce some nice looking pigeons, even if they haven't proven themselves to be champions like he was. One little bit of trivia about him, he actually is a pied pigeon, and he produces pied babies, but it's quite hard to see. He only has 2 little white feathers. I'm not sure if you can even see them on the camera. There's one here, and there's another one over here somewhere. Here it is over here. I don't know if you guys were even able to see that on the camera, but he is a sneaky little incognito pied pigeon. Anyway, let's go outside and have a look at the rest of them. Now, I may as well start over here. And I know these little breeding box videos are not very interesting, so I'm not going to do too many of them. You'll see a lot more in the big loft once the pigeons are in there. These guys have laid their 2nd egg, so we'll check in a few days to see if that's fertile. I'm pretty sure it will be. And hopefully get a nice little red cockbird in this nest, because that'll be useful for our yellow project moving forward. Down here, these guys haven't laid yet, but they are still mating up. Unfortunately, it's just this hen with her ovulation problem. It is difficult for her to produce eggs, and that's why I've started them early this year. We really are hoping to get a few race birds out of her, because she really was a champion pigeon, and she produces quite nice babies. So I'm really hoping these genetics don't go to waste. And then we have these guys, and he is sitting on the nest, but there's no egg in there, unfortunately. The problem with these guys is he has the cancer in his leg, which makes mobility a little bit difficult for him. And then up here, if she'll let you see, the hen is actually missing one of her feet. She lost a foot in an accident, so she has to hop around a little bit as well. And I think these high nest bowls just don't mix well with the disabled pigeons. They have to kind of jump into the nest, which has led to both of the eggs in this clutch unfortunately being smashed, which is really quite sad considering the quality of these birds. I think what I'm going to have to do is let this hen lay the eggs and then just run them under a different pair, because I really do need to get some babies out of these guys, and I don't want to keep losing them to silly things like the eggs being crushed in the nest. Alright, let's talk about some of the questions you guys left. A lot of you guys were concerned about these corrugated iron walls behind me. People were worried about the temperature, or if I'm going to line the walls with any kind of water insulation. And the answer is yes. I had already planned for that in the design. I'm pretty sure I mentioned it in the other video as well that we are planning on cladding these walls with plywood, and I am also fully aware of the importance of keeping on top of the temperature and the humidity. I've actually already got a temperature and a hydrometer in the loft just to keep an eye on what's going on. If you look outside, it's a very wet and rainy day, and we can see that being reflected on the hydrometer there. There is about a year until I'll actually be competing in races from this loft, so like I said in the last video, I'm hoping that gives me enough time to really iron out any of the kinks and get this loft as good as I possibly can before it's time to race. Anyway, you guys can probably hear that jackhammer outside. It's a bit noisy. I'm gonna go inside the house and answer some more of your questions in there. Okay, a few guys, including Jeremiah and some others, asked about the frame. Did I build it or did I get it manufactured? The answer is the frame was manufactured custom by a shed building factory. They built the frame and the roof. The steel cladding on the outside I did by myself. I did get a quote from the manufacturer to get it built with the steel cladding on the outside, but it was about $4,000 more expensive than it was to do it by myself. So yeah, I got the steel myself and put that on. And the floor I built myself as well. Maybe we should go back outside and have a look at the floor. Basically, it's just some Besser block or cinder block pylons with a standard barra and joist floor and a weatherproof particle board floor that the loft is bolted down onto. Okay, Azzy and a few others have asked about the size and the layout of the loft. It's 5 meters long and 2 meters deep. And at the highest point it's 2 meters high, and at the low point at the back it's 1.8 meters high. The layout, so as I discussed in the other video, there's 2 race sections at the start where the door comes in, and then the back 2 sections are the stock sections. The race sections are 1.4 meters wide, and the stock sections are 1.1 meters wide. And the idea behind that was basically just so I could fit what I wanted to fit in the small amount of space that I had. If I had more space, the stock sections would be a lot bigger. And the reasoning behind having the race sections 1.4 meters wide is because I like having the 200mm deep perches. So having the 1.4, that will hopefully allow me to have the deep perches and still have enough room for the race birds to fit. Unfortunately, it means that in the stock section, the nesting boxes will be smaller than I would like, but I don't have much space, so I've got to make a few sacrifices here and there. James has asked about the size of the steel tubing. I don't actually know, I didn't request any size of the tubing when I made the order. I might just go outside and measure it for you. Okay, so here's our tubing. And what's that? 25 mil. 1 inch, 25 mil. Alright, that's the size. A few people have asked about how much it cost. It wasn't too expensive for a brand new loft. So in Australian dollars, the metal frame was 2,200. I spent about 500 on the steel around the outside, and the floor was about 300, so that's about 3,000 Australian dollars. And that's to have the whole structure up, obviously not including the internal lining or the perches. I might update you guys later on when I've got the internal lining and the perches done, but so far I've spent about 3,000, which isn't too bad for a brand new loft. I can't find the comment here in the list, it must have been somewhere else, but somebody asked me about the direction of the loft. The loft is actually facing south, which in the southern hemisphere here is not ideal. The reason that I have my loft facing south is just because of the layout of my yard. I don't have a very big yard, and there's not much space to have the loft in it. And like I said, with the sizes of the sections, because I'm working with a small area, I just have to make some sacrifices, and unfortunately one of those is having the loft facing south, which is not the ideal direction. Hopefully, despite that, we can still make the loft work and have some racing success. I have raced in a club in the past where the most successful dominating flyer, his loft also faced south, and that was the same because of the layout of his yard. So I know it can be done, and hopefully we'll have some success here. Anyway guys, that looks like it's all the questions. If you have any more, leave them below here. I might do another Q&A video like this in the future. So if you can think of any questions, keep them in mind. And when we're ready to do a Q&A video, I'll do a call out and I'll answer your questions. Alright guys, well thanks for watching. I might go back outside and do a bit more work on the loft. And hopefully a week or two and we'll have the birds here. Cheers.